Yes.
My name is Todd Bailey.
I'm Mike Dooley.
We represent a programming group from Brooklyn called 68 Crew, and we built the first new vector game in 30 years. So a true vector game is defined by the display that it uses. So the display that VEC9 uses is an Electrohome G05 monitor, which is a monitor that was originally developed or originally popularized by the Asteroids arcade game. And it draws lines in a different way than any other sort of display that was used for popular games. So there are no pixels essentially in VEC9, there are only lines and dots.
So I guess like what you'd have with like a typical arcade game, right? Where you'd have a model that's defined in 3D space, and you put that in your game world and you apply a texture to it. So we can't do any of the texture applying things, but we can take that wireframe base model and put it on the screen and kind of get these weird, like cool 3D shapes that you wouldn't necessarily see in older vector games.
So the thing about an old vector game is that they look awesome, but they didn't have the horses under the hood to actually do true 3D. But the cool thing about our spaceship is, right, like our spaceship swoops in from the top, it spins around. When it gets blown up in 3 dimensions, which is something they couldn't do back in the day, but we can do now, which is makes it look awesome, I think. So the big controller in the middle is a tank controller. It's the gunner's control from an M1 Abrams, and we picked it up in a surplus store. I figured out, the gutty works of it are sort of the same as just a joystick might be, in that it has a couple, the XY controls are potentiometers, then it has some buttons which are rugged, but other than that, just like normal buttons. So that's interfaced to a microcontroller, which then talks serial to the actual game. The rest of the front panel stuff, there are a bunch of safety protected toggle switches, which are for a secret level in the game, which is at the end, which I can't tell you about. And then there's a health monitor, which are these red-green LEDs, and then there's an old 5x5 incandescent industrial display, which we reprinted with Cyrillic, so it would indicate the status of your ship. So it's cool to be in this arcade here with the Death by Audio guys, because we have, like, all these cabinets I think are cool, but they have a different aesthetic, sort of. So our cabinet, I think, is like probably the biggest technical challenge, right? Like, a lot of these games are awesomely creative and cool, but this one is like a lot of solder joints. So I think it attracts people who remember vector games. One of the big questions you get is that a real vector monitor? That's not a real vector monitor. And the other question you get is, like, I don't get it. So and it's like, it's kind of an age-related thing. Like, all the old people are like, whoa, and all the young people are like, why is it black and white?